wonderful. Isanti Glass, welcome. Thank you. Am I saying it right, Isanti?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, Pieter, let me begin with you. If we sort of look at glass, and interesting fact about glass is it's 100% recyclable, which is it really is an amazing thing. But what makes it the most sustainable packaging material compared to alternatives like plastic and aluminium?
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having us, and thanks for the opportunity to talk about glass. We're very passionate about glass, so excited to be here. When we look at glass, I think it starts with the raw materials. I think that's the important thing. So the three main raw materials for glass is silica sand, then sodium carbonate, which is called soda ash, and ultimately lime from limestone. So these are all natural materials, and I think the recyclability of glass sits with the fact that it's 100% natural materials going into glass, coming straight from the natural resources that we have on our planet. So these things, I think, are really, really good. I think compared to other packaging materials, there's a big difference, between glass and other packaging materials in the sense that, when consumers and stakeholders look at glass, they don't always see that glass really, from a supply chain perspective, looks at raw materials from its natural sort of origin and source. So other packaging materials use inputs, that's not necessarily coming from the direct source. So there's been some processing and some other elements part of it. And I think, this really is a good time for consumers and for stakeholders to look at the full supply chain of what goes into packaging material. We obviously, apart from having to use natural resources, we also utilize recycled glass to really offset and minimize the impact we have, on the environment. And, we're very proud to say that, if we look at our glass products, some of which is on the tables here today, I'm very happy to see, glass, Walting glass. But if we look at that, each of those bottles contains more than 50% recycled glass when we make it, which is really astonishing. And I think it's something that's really special about glass that, when you look at that, you can recycle glass and continuously recycle it without losing some of the qualities. And in that way, I think apart from the reusability it leaves, it also, keeps glass from landfill sites. And I think there's a lot we can say about how we can improve recycling. But, we can, through that initiative also contribute to the circular economy and make a big difference in that.
Amazing. Ronel, when we look at the recyclability of glass, which we're looking at now as I see it on the table, how does this contribute to the circular economy? Because that's a big talking point that we spoke about yesterday. And what steps can industry ensure that they have put in place for reuse?
As a point of departure, Leanne, just to reiterate our definitions yesterday from about the circular economy, we were well schooled on that. Yeah. It contrasts what the linear economy is of take, use, and dispose, whereas in the circular economy, we are minimizing waste and maximizing resources. In our glass industry, that would be the raw materials that Pieter is talking about. But where glass stands out above other packaging materials is that it's infinitely recyclable, which means it does not degrade regardless of the number of times a bottle is recycled. It remains 100% recyclable. But my pain point around the circular economy when it comes to glass is that we haven't done enough to educate the man on the street or the people in our communities about what the circular economy actually means. And for us here in the room, we know what that circular economy means. We're well schooled about it. We have the academic definitions, but how do we hinge on that, taking it to the community? So I refer to or reflect on my childhood experience where we used to return our soda bottles to the store and we would get money back.
Yeah.
And we used to get those silver coins.
And the milk.
Exactly.
Remember the glass milk bottle?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we would get silver coins. And if I'm saying silver coins, I'm probably giving away my age, right? So I didn't know at that point that I was contributing to a circular economy. So when we take that into the schools, and that's what we are doing now with Isanti's 5th anniversary in April, taking it into schools and breaking down what it means to them, what is a circular economy, and hopefully educating them about the entrepreneurial opportunities in this circular economy. And this is where I think we can collaborate better with the brand owners to break it down to the layman, in layman's terms, to schools and to the consumer itself.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. You've taken my mind back to times when we would do that. That was the done thing. You'd have that bottle of milk and orange juice delivered at the bottom of the driveway, and you would just wash it, take it out, reuse it, and that's the way it was. Now it's like that, quick, fast, throw it away, have another one, get another. And it just, we've just become, I don't know what it is. This is just the world we live in, I suppose. But let's move on to energy consumption, because that's another important topic as well. What strategies do Isanti Glass employ to reduce energy consumption in the production of the glass packaging?
Energy is definitely a huge issue for us, right? So energy consumption is a big thing in our lives. I think firstly we can start with, I think the previous panelists also mentioned things about, hydrogen and green hydrogen. So there are some interesting work being done globally, and I think it's really good to see the collective glass industry moving towards finding innovative ways to how can we reduce and have a green energy come into our glass production. And the most of our energy is being utilized in our furnaces. So when we have our raw materials all mixed, we put them in a furnace where they heat up and they melt and they become glass. And that's the key consumption point of energy. So we're really happy and excited to see some of the good work being done where there are hydrogen furnaces that uses hydrogen as a combustion source and a heating source. And I think it leaves some exciting opportunities for the future. At Isanti, we're not yet there. What we're doing on our side is really looking at how can we optimize our furnace process. We spent a lot of work in the last couple of years, and since 2023, we've been able to reduce the energy that we use per ton melted by more than 20%. So some really good gains, which we're proud of, and more opportunities are there. I think technology and innovation is driving us to move forward in terms of continuously improving our energy consumption. We mentioned earlier recycled glass. Now, one of the amazing things about recycled glass and using recycled glass in the glass manufacturing is that the recycled glass actually melts at a lower melting point. So, the more recycled glass we can use in our process, the more efficient we can also be in terms of energy consumption. So there's a great incentive for us to really reuse and recycle. And lastly, I think another key part of it is that, to the extent we sort of touched on some of the discussions yesterday as well, but there are some, internal things we can do, but we're also, quite advanced in a journey to look at renewable energy coming from a rooftop solar project, into our energy mix, so that the energy that we do use are more renewable and are more green. So, that's a very exciting project. We probably close to making some formal announcements about how far we've come. So it's good for us to see how we use these opportunities. And we're excited also about what the market may give in the future for wheeling and other opportunities for manufacturers like us to say, how do we change not only the energy we use, but the mix of energy and the source of how it's getting generated.
Stunning. Okay, Ronel, the role that glass plays in supporting responsible manufacturing and sustaining supply chains, I think we're getting an idea of it. Perhaps maybe just elaborate a bit more.
Would you mind repeating the question?
Yeah. What role does glass play in supporting responsible manufacturing and sustainable supply chains?
Absolutely. It reinforcing the stewardship of the brand, Leanne, environmental stewardship, that is as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I am gathering the question properly on that one, Leanne.
Don't worry, Pieter. I don't know if you want to add anything onto that. Yeah.
I think as a in the glass industry, packaging as a solution, I think becomes more and more important for consumers. And I think there are many valuable contributions that glass brings to consumer brands, and I think awareness around specific environmental impacts and the advantages that glass can bring to those consumers. Unfortunately, we have a global economy, and I think we touched on it in a previous conversation as well. It's really about consumerism and driving more and more and more. And from a glass perspective, we believe that reuse, recycle, all of those initiatives brings that element, to brand owners that they can also, support, from what they package their product in. And I think that's an important contribution that hopefully will drive some change at a consumer level that can see us be more environmentally conscious.
Well, it is. I mean, I know from previous years and doing functions, and people were kind of offended at the plastic packaging because, you look at it and think, here we are talking about sustainability and all of this kind of stuff, and we're still surrounded by plastic everywhere, and unfortunately, it's a thing that we need to, it takes time. And I realized that from the previous panel as well. It takes time, it's a mindset, but we are moving in the right direction with initiatives such as yourself. Ronel, if I can, in terms of health benefits that, I mean, I know you're quite passionate about, but how does glass packaging reinforce the brand's sustainability towards all of these things?
Glass is chemically inert, and that is one of the beautiful things about glass, Leanne. And that simply means that it does not leach substances into the food or beverage that is packed into it. And I always like to say, let's do Oma's tomato relish test. So let's make a pot of tomato relish, package it into a glass jar, either one that you are reusing or one that you've newly bought, and package it into a different type of packaging material. We're not going to call anybody out, but use an alternate packaging material and give it a couple of days and see how the tomato relish has interacted with the glass or the alternative packaging material. And that happens because of the heat exposure and the acidic exposure compared to other packaging materials versus glass. And that's the difference between glass and other packaging materials. We also are aware that other packaging materials release other substances into into the consumables, like BPA, bisphenol A. Yes, BPA. Every time you pick up a bottle in the shop, there's a declaration that it's BPA free.
Yeah.
But just keep it hanging around long enough and look at how the contents of that has reacted with the container.
You see, now I had no idea about this. So now I'm going to have to go and do a relish test, a tomato relish test. Although I don't think I've ever bought tomato relish in like a plastic container or any other kind of container. It usually is in a glass
container generally. And for that specific reason.
I didn't know this. You see what I mean, guys? We don't know this stuff. Did anybody else know this? I mean, I know I'm speaking to the converted out here, but did anyone genuinely, did you learn something? Please tell me someone else learned something. Okay, what, you and I, thank you. 1, 2 people, 3, as well, 4. Okay, 5, yay. And they're all finding the guts to speak out, because I think that's important. We need to know all of those things. Okay, Pieter, as we start wrapping up, you speak about the environmental impact, but consumers like myself, we need to become more health conscious and ultimately drive these purchasing decisions. How does glass as a packaging solution compare to other packaging material, and also talk to these educational things that perhaps we don't know?
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. Look, I think Ronel mentioned a lot of the key points already from a health perspective. So the reason why, when we look at glass from a sustainability perspective, we really take a holistic approach. And, for us, it's just as important as making, a perfect bottle or a perfect jar. We want to make sure that our consumer that actually uses it is having a product that's safe, in good use. For each of our customers, they package the best ingredients into their product, right? And we want to see those ingredients reach the final market and the final consumer in a good way, so that it still has the amazing taste and flavors that we'd like it to be in there. So when we look at glass compared to other packaging materials, we have to look at it holistically. Like, how can we see how much from a supply chain perspective, where is the raw materials coming from, how much is being used in it, how safe is the product that we actually use, how is the environmental impact holistically. And, like Ronel said, the reusability aspects of glass is just amazing. When you buy a jar, when you finish it, you can reuse it without, having any impact on any other thing you put in there. It just provides such an amazing benefit. And I think part of our awareness program as Isanti is really to challenge our consumers and our audience to say, have you thought about, the packaging choices that you make every single day? Yeah. And, for us as a convenience-based, society, we need to have more time spent on that. And I think for us, the starting point is, how do we bring the awareness, the knowledge, the learnings, as we had today, about how beneficial glass is and why we believe it's the only real environment.
And it also does a lot for the brand. And I mean, perhaps there are brands out there that haven't necessarily moved across. But, what does it do for a brand?
I think, Leanne, if I could take that one.
Yeah.
I was talking about stewardship, and there's one of our core values at Isanti, and it's not just about the environmental, it's about the S and the G as well. It's about you communicating to us as a consumer that you care about my health needs when I choose your product in glass. So it is good in glass. That's what a lot of people like to say, but it's actually better in glass. And I want us to collaborate as brand owners to drive not just the brand experience, but the glass experience on why it's better for our health and all of these other environmental impacts that we've spoken about today.
Amazing. Okay, close it up for me, Pieter. Your last thoughts on this.
Yeah, just thanks, Leah. Last thoughts. Let's challenge the audience to really, when you make your choices around the packaging material in which you buy your products, in many cases, how much thought do you give, to the packaging material you choose, to the impact that packaging material has, not only on how it's manufactured, but more than that, what it means for your health when you consume it, but also beyond that point, how does that packaging, get to the end of the life and what happens to it? And our main philosophy is reuse, recycle. From a glass perspective, we can holistically make sure that we have a fully sustainable, environmental friendly product. And from all of those aspects, we need consumers to buy and to see that. And we're working closely with our brand owners to make sure that gets across.
Amazing. Guys, thank you. Thanks for partnering this year. Good to have you here. And thanks for talking to us about all these benefits of glass and educating me at the same time. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ronel and Pieter. Thank you from Isanti Glass. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.